Hello again. Welcome to SEC Baseball Predictions and Previews for Week 12. I'm your host, Chris Lee at Southeastern 16, joined by Alfred Esmond, Graham Doty, and in absentia, Jay Greason, who has given us his picks, won't be here today. We'll get those. We're going to go through every SEC series this weekend. We will talk about them in this order. The Thursday starting series, there was only one of them this week. That is Texas at Arkansas. Followed by the Friday starting series, we will go in this order, which is roughly order of start time. Auburn at Tennessee, Alabama at Vanderbilt, LSU at Texas A&M, Kentucky at Mississippi State, Georgia at Missouri, Florida at South Carolina, Ole Miss at Oklahoma. We start with one of the biggest series of the year in college baseball in Fayetteville. Texas, which is 9-1 on the road, faces Arkansas, which is 27-3 at home. Injury reports we have just for this game. We're doing this on Thursday morning, so the injury reports and the pitching matchups have not been released on everyone else, but here's what we've got. For Arkansas, players who are out, infielder Nolan Souza, relief pitcher Parker Coyle, and also relief pitcher Carson Wiggins. Those are two big absences, really three for Arkansas. Questionable are Gabe Frazier, Logan Maxwell, who's a first baseman and a corner outfielder, and Michael Anderson, who really has not played much this year. For Texas, no big deal. They'll just go without Jared Spencer and Max Blue again. Maybe their best starting pitcher and their best position player has not seemed to matter lately for the Longhorns. Here are the times, the TV, and the pitching matchups as they have been announced. Thursday, 6 Central on ESPN2. I will go Texas and Arkansas, probably Ruger Riojas against lefty Zach Root. Riojas, a right-hander. Friday, 7 Central on the SEC Network, probably lefty Luke Harrison versus righty Gage Wood. And then both schools have said they're going to be announced on the Saturday game, which is 2 Central on the SEC Plus. Alfred, start us off. Your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, everyone online being like Texas hasn't played anyone on the road yet. Well, you're going to get your answer this weekend. Let's see how this works out as they travel to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. For what it's worth, Texas is 9-1 on the road this year. They're pretty good on the road. This, hands down, though, is the toughest opponent they've had away from Austin this year. The injuries are stacking up a little bit for both these teams. Obviously, for Arkansas, it's that bullpen that's getting eaten alive. And then, obviously, you have arguably the two best players on Texas's team out. Like you said, though, Chris, this hasn't really mattered. Everyone throughout that Texas lineup has stepped up in their own big ways, whether it be Schussler, whether it be Rylan Galvan, Will Gasparino, you name it. Someone's probably done it at some point. And as for pitching, I was really happy with what Ruger Riojas did last Friday when the Jared Spencer news came out. This is, I think, will be a little bit tougher because it's a really good Arkansas lineup in their own building. But nonetheless, that should be quite the treat to see Riojas versus Root tonight. As for Arkansas, tough series last weekend on the road in Florida. We heard Dave Van Horn talking beforehand. Thank you, Graham, for that. Mentioned it was really hot there, that sort of thing. In the end, though, if you're Arkansas, you really wanted to get a series win there against a Florida team that you could definitely have beaten. It's just going to be pretty big mentally for Arkansas. Like, you have a chance to rebound in a huge way against the number one team in the country at your own ballpark and really put a stamp on what your season's been about. So that's going to be the big storyline in this one for the Hogs. I am reluctantly, with my prediction, going to go Texas 2 out of 3. Reluctantly. Would not shock me at all if Arkansas wins this thing. However, with all this momentum Texas has right now, 10 straight wins dating back to the last loss they had against Kentucky, and just being good for what it's worth on the road from what we've seen, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they haven't given me any doubt really to work with, as of recent. Mm-hmm. So Texas in 2 is my prediction.
So here's some interesting, stats and nuggets. These two teams are meeting for the first time since 2018 when they had a midweek matchup. Arkansas has dropped 3 straight SEC series for the first time in 9 years, which is bananas. And the other one, this is a positive for Arkansas. They've won 24 of the last 26 home SEC series. So one of those losses was 2 weeks ago, right? To A&M. So they're very, very, very difficult to beat at Baum Walker. We were listening to Dave Van Horn in his press conference, just kind of previewing the series. Guys, it does not sound like Logan Maxwell is going to be able to do much. Van Horn said like he will be available, but if he does anything, it's either going to be like pinch hitting opportunities or maybe a DH. So right now, this is pretty much the most beat up Arkansas has been pitching wise and like key position player wise. I mean, I'm leaning towards Alfred. Rule 101, like never give up on a heater. So Texas has been really good to me, and in these picks here lately, Texas has all the momentum. The one thing I am curious about, so this is like Alfred, you alluded to it. This is not only their first like major opportunity on the road, but it's also what is life going to be like without Spencer? He's not in the picture the rest of the season. So how does Texas adjust to that? So far, they've been able to handle that. But right now, I just think kind of Texas, they got so much momentum really in all aspects and phases. Like, their offense the numbers when you look at them and compared to everybody else in the league, like they nothing really jumps out to you, but they just seem to get timely hits and they just do enough. And the pitching is so good that everything is just clicking. So I'm taking Texas 2 out of 3. I think all games are going to be close. I would not be surprised at all if the Razorbacks are able to win this series.
Yeah, one thing I look at, guys, when I'm looking at a series is how do you cover 27 innings in a weekend? And for Texas, even without Jared Spencer, I mean, they're getting along just fine between Riojas, Luke Harrison, Max Grubbs, Volantis, Jason Flores, Duplantier. We saw Thomas Burns last weekend. Grayson Saulnier's been getting in the mix lately. Like, they are covering innings very well, even without their ace. But Arkansas, same thing right now. By the way, Landon Beidelshe's not listed as a starter this weekend, guys. I mean, is that right?
Neither is
That's
Gaffel.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And Carson Wiggins is a dude at the end for them. Parker Coyle is a dude. And I just look at the way these guys are pitching. And look, I've been slow to hit the panic button on Arkansas. And I won't call it the panic button, but Root's not pitched as well. Beidelshe's isn't even pitching this weekend. Gackle and Wood have not been good, or Gackle certainly hasn't. Now, they've got some good arms there. Ben Bybee, Aiden Jimenez, Dylan Carter, and Will McIntyre, who hasn't pitched as many innings as he normally does. I don't know, guys. You look at the runs Arkansas has been giving up lately. The numbers in SEC play, and granted, these are to like Georgia and A&M, but it's not the shutdown Arkansas pitching. That it's not been bad, but it's not been what I thought it would be. They allowed 9 runs last weekend to Florida in a Sunday loss. I was going to pick Arkansas. I really was. And then I looked at the injuries, and I'm just like, that's a lot of big guys out for Arkansas. I'm going to ride with Texas in this one. That's going to make it 3-1 because Jay is going to go Arkansas. So anyway, moving on to Auburn and Tennessee. That one, game times Friday night, 5:30 Central on the Plus. In fact, all these are on the Plus. We don't have the matchups, but we think it'll be Sam Dutton, Liam Doyle. On the Saturday, Cade Fisher for Auburn and Marcus Phillips versus Tennessee. And then noon Central. Last week, Auburn went Cam Tilley. Tennessee went A.J. Russell. Alfred, I'll have you start us off. What do you think of the pitching matchups, if we got the right names there? And what about the injury situation for both teams?
I think the first pitching matchup is incredible, and I absolutely cannot wait. I'm bubbling at the thought of Liam Doyle and Sam Dutton going at each other. That is going to be quite the treat. That's going to be whatever team can crack the opposing pitcher first is going to win that game. Obviously, kind of reminded me of when Liam Doyle matched up with Liam Peterson back at the beginning of SEC play. This one sort of has that feel to it. As far as matchups go, guys, Tennessee, if you don't have your defensive whatever woes going on, if you don't have that cleaned up, playing against this Auburn team, they're going to burn you. They're going to burn you really bad with what this lineup can do. Just, was talking about it a little this morning on another show. The freshmen have been incredible for them. Freilich, Terrell, and then Rembert. Ooh, I was blanking there, but Chris Rembert as well. They've all been great. A lot of high on base percentages, up over 400 for that Auburn team. Tennessee's really going to have to find their defense this weekend, or else Auburn's going to walk into there and possibly steal this series. And if that happens, though, if Tennessee finds their footing and stuff, I think they're in pretty good shape. Honestly, I think this hitting, I know Sam Dutton is tough, but I think this hitting over the stretches of time can get to this Auburn bullpen, when they need to. And that's going to be the key thing to it, is how fast Tennessee knocks these starters out, especially in the first 2 games. So that's what I'm going to all be watching out for. For me, I am going to, again, a reluctant pick here, go Tennessee in 2 games. Pick whatever Auburn game you want for them to win, but I think Tennessee will be re-energized from being at home. It'll be a tough series. They're really going to have to earn it, but I'm going to lean on them at home in Knoxville and Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I'm going to give them the series win. Tennessee 2 out of 3.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm on the fence about this one, just because you got Auburn coming off momentum, winning the series against Mississippi State. Tennessee hasn't really played well for, what would you guys say, fairly the last month or so. They haven't played up to their potential. The fact that it's in Knoxville, I think, will be a big benefit for Tennessee. But here's where I think it's going to come down to. You touched on the defense, Alfred. Tennessee has the second most errors in the SEC. Only Mizzou has more. Tennessee has given up 19 more stolen bases than the next closest team, which is South Carolina. Small things like that matter. You got to play good defense, and you can't let runners steal bases. Auburn, they're not really known for stealing bases. They're pretty much middle of the pack in the SEC. They're in the 40s. I kind of think they're going to try to be aggressive in that area. The Friday night game is going to be awesome, just with the pitching matchup alone with Doyle and Dutton. I'm going to go the opposite of Alfred. I'm going to go Auburn taking 2 out of 3. But again, all 3 games close. I think it's a fascinating series. Tennessee, they're just trying to gain momentum back, right the ship. And then Auburn, they're playing for a national seed. And if they can take 2 out of 3, this will be a nice feather in their cap to, put their stamp. Hey, we want a national seed. Gonna take Auburn 2 out of 3. Don't really feel great about it. Not a lot of confidence, but I'm gonna roll with the Tigers.
I forgot to mention this. Auburn 4-8 on the road. Now, look, those have been some tough series at Texas and at Georgia, where nobody's winning. Also at Kentucky to start the year. So there's that. Auburn did also play a road game at a pretty good Jacksonville State team in the midweek. I feel like Tennessee almost plays better on the road at times, although last weekend that didn't hold. And Alfred, all those concerns are valid. You're seeing some cracks with Tennessee. You're seeing, defensive instability, I guess is a better way to put it. You're seeing trouble with runners. Auburn doesn't really do that, though. And I think one thing that's kind of interesting, Sam Dutton has been almost an automatic win for Auburn on Fridays. But there's been another guy who's been almost an automatic win in this league, too, and that's Liam Doyle. And they're facing him at home. He's been good everywhere, but I feel like haven't 2 of his no-hitters been at home?
Liam Doyle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. I just feel like Friday in Knoxville, they've been electric. And if you don't get that game, if you're Auburn, then you got to take the next 2. And Marcus Phillips was really good against LSU last week.
Mm-hmm.
I see the cracks with Tennessee. And I know it's not fantasy baseball where you just run names out there and it works. But, guys, I was looking at the draft this morning, Baseball America's projections. Tennessee's got 5 guys inside the top 50 in their draft projections. Doyle, Curley, Keelan, Fisher, and even A.J. Russell, who I presume we will see on Sunday. Do I feel great about it? No, I don't, because of the way Tennessee's played lately and because they have some issues that are unresolved going into this. I'm going to go, though. I think talent wins out. I think home field advantage wins out. I'm going to go with Alfred on this one. I'm taking Tennessee. Jay is going with Auburn, so we're split down the middle on this one. Okay, next up, also in the Volunteer State, Alabama travels to Vanderbilt. Both teams looking to host and maybe get national seeds. Also, that's the same case with Auburn and Tennessee, by the way. Alabama is 8-4 on the road. Vanderbilt is 23-4 at home. 3 of those 4 losses have been to Arkansas. Here are what we expect the pitching matchups to be. They have not been announced yet. Friday, 6 Central, this game and Saturday's game on the Plus, which is the app. We believe it'll probably be Tyler Fay for Alabama against lefty J.D. Thompson for Vanderbilt. Saturday, I would expect Riley Quick for Alabama against righty Cody Bowker for Vandy. And Sunday, I would think we will see Zane Adams for Alabama against Connor Fennell. That game, 3 Central on the SEC Network. Alfred, I think in terms of injuries, both teams are pretty clean. At least Vanderbilt is. R.J. Austin is back. And we had saw your Hawks last week missed the series because of a funeral. I think Vanderbilt is all well. And I think Alabama was too last week, if I'm right.
Yeah, and they hit their stride last week by virtue of playing Missouri, which is what they needed. Alabama now has won 5 games in a row, dating back to the series finale against LSU. They defeated Samford and then swept Mizzou. And, it was a team that hit a lull right in the middle of SEC play, but not really anymore. But when you look at what they've done at really recently, the head-to-head to watch in this one, guys, is the Vanderbilt pitching and Alabama lineup, right? It's going to be about who wins that one out, really. With all due respect to Alabama's pitching and Vanderbilt's offense, it's the vice versa that I'm looking out for. If Vanderbilt can find a way to pitch how they normally have and what they're capable of, I think this is going to be a fairly easy series win for them. It's just a question of if Alabama can come in on the road and put up good hitting like they did against Missouri. Obviously, it's way different opponents, right, when you talk about that, but I kind of trust Vanderbilt at home enough and their pitching enough to give them the series win here. I'm not going to do a sweep, though. I do think Alabama's hitting will be awake enough like it was at Missouri to take at least a game. But I do feel confident in picking Vanderbilt to win 2 out of 3 and win this series.
Talk about a 180 for Alabama. You face Mizzou and that pitching staff, and then you're on the road and you're facing probably one of the top staffs in the SEC and in the country. I'm picking Vanderbilt, and here's why. So they're done. I think they're the first SEC team that's done with finals. So that's in the rearview mirror. They don't have to worry about that anymore. They're back home, and as Chris just touched on, some of the guys that have been out, they're back, and mostly I think that's a huge benefit for Vandy to get Sawyer back. So he's back. He's been lights out. I just trust the Vanderbilt pitching more than the Alabama pitching. Now, offensively, we know what Bama can do, especially when they get hot. But I'm just taking Vanderbilt at home. Again, I just kind of think last week anything that could go wrong went wrong for the Commodores, losing the midweek and then losing 2 out of 3 in Oxford. And really, they were in really one of those games. So I'm taking the Commodores at home just because I trust the pitching more.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just think Vanderbilt's got more arms to cover the weekend. I think the good for Alabama is that Zane Adams has thrown better lately. You've got Riley Quick, who's a first-rounder potentially. And I think Vandy's Thompson and Bowker seems like it's been like an every other weekend situation where one or both of them is good. but they've been a little bit erratic lately. Now, Connor Fennell on that Sunday slot has been phenomenal. If you've not seen that kid pitch, he is a treat to watch. His teammates kid him. He looks like he's 12 years old because he looks like he's 12 years old. And probably won't break 88, but has been impossible to hit. Has got the best strikeout rate in the league. Alabama, I've been a little concerned about their offense. I think Justin LeBron hasn't homered in close to a month now, unless he hit one midweek. And on weekends, throw Missouri out last weekend, their offense, they have scored, going backwards, starting with the LSU series, they scored they scored 7. They scored, 3. They scored 6. Before that, against Mississippi State, they scored 2, 4, and 3. Before that, against Auburn, they scored 5, 6, and 0. Before that, against Oklahoma, they scored 8. They scored 5, and they scored 8. So it just feels like Alabama's explosive offense from earlier in the year just hasn't been on display in a while. Now, look, you're seeing better pitching in the SEC, but I think I trust Vanderbilt with the arms to cover 27 outs this weekend. I'm going to go with the Commodores. Also, that makes it a sweep. Okay, I think this one is going to be super interesting, guys. LSU with a national seed to play for. Texas A&M with just trying to get into the tournament to play for. LSU is 5-5 on the road. A&M is 19-9 at home. None of these games somehow on TV. They're all on the SEC app or the ESPN app. Here are your pitching matchups. Friday, 6 Central. I think we will see lefty Cade Anderson against lefty Ryan Prager. Saturday, I would expect at 2 Central to see Anthony Einson, a righty, versus Justin Lampkin, a lefty. Sunday, 1 Central. Last week, LSU went Case and Evans. Do they do that again? He's your closer, but it worked really well when he went 6 innings against Tennessee last week. Once he got out of the first, he was electric. And lefty Miles Patton for A&M, I would think, could be the guy there again. Alfred, start us off with injuries. Anything else that you're watching here?
LSU is riding high as ever, right, guys? After the Tennessee series win, the one thing that sticks out to me, though, on the road in the SEC, it has been at best. I mean, they got swept at Auburn and then lost at Texas, although everyone does that. The Auburn one really kind of sticks out here because I would say the crowd in College Station is just as good as the one in Auburn for baseball. So that really kind of just makes me, do a double take at this, because just based off momentum, I would lean LSU. But I think the Friday night matchup is going to be a treat between Anderson and Prager. That's going to be some awesome baseball being played right up there with Dutton and Doyle, which we talked about earlier. I think, if A&M finds a way, I feel like with A&M, even last week, speaking of momentum, they did get swept, but they were in every single game with Texas, who's the best team in the country. So my confidence on them hadn't wavered too much. And I thought for the most part, there were some good pitching standouts there. It was just not enough on offense to get them over the hump. So I'm going to go LSU. Yeah, I'm going to go LSU. Also, probably the most reluctant one out of all of these. I feel like A&M could very well take this series, having revenge on their mind from last weekend. But I do think momentum is going to play a huge factor into this. And I think LSU is riding so high after beating Tennessee at home that they're going to just be, chomping at the bit to get out to College Station and get series wins. The pitching matchups are going to be huge. I think if A&M wins the pitching battle like they can with the starters and the potential they have, they can quiet this LSU lineup. However, I do think with the kind of hitting we saw from the Tigers last weekend, that they'll be able to get it done in 2 games.
Yeah, this is so hard. It's just, unfortunately for Texas A&M, they're playing their best baseball, but they got the worst schedule of anybody in the conference. It's just so brutal. You just go to Texas, who's number 1 in the country. Now your reward is come back home and you get the number 2 team in the country in LSU, and then they got Georgia is on the horizon as well. So I just think it's bad timing here for Texas A&M. I'm leaning towards LSU with you, Alfred. Don't really feel great about it. I'm leaning towards the Tigers because, again, what do I trust, especially on the road? Pitching. And I just think LSU has more options on the mound than A&M does, whether it be uh, Cowan, Evans, Ianson, like whatever. I just think LSU has more to work with on the mound than Texas A&M does. And I also kind of want to see how do the Aggies respond? Like, where are they mentally? Like, that was an emotional series for them. They were in every single game in Austin, but none of them went their way. So how do they look? How do they respond emotionally? To me, that's going to be a part of it. I'm going to take LSU 2 out of 3. But again, would not be stunned if the Aggies are able to build some momentum here. They need it. Like, they're the more desperate team. Normally in situations like this, I take the team that is a little bit more desperate, but I trust the LSU pitching a little bit more, which is why I'm going with the Tigers.
Guys, since the calendar flipped to April, my goodness, here's some run totals for A&M. The midweek games, 21. Actually, that might have been a March game. That was Incarnate Word. 14, 16, 11, and 13. Some of those are run rule games. Now, I realize none of those are going to be against LSU. Now, Texas last week, shut them down. They scored, 8 runs the whole weekend? Something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the run totals that they've gotten, what was it? That Saturday game and the Sunday game against Tennessee, they just scored a ton of runs. I've got the wrong information in front of me. Here you go. They scored 9. They scored 17 against South Carolina, 8, 17, 15 against Arkansas, 7, 5, and 9. And then, again, Texas shut them down. I think Texas is an anomaly, and LSU's got outstanding pitching, too, with Anderson and Ianson and Cowan and Evans and those guys. I kind of disagree with Graham, though. I don't think Prager, Lampkin, and Patton have been quite as good as I expected, but they can cover a lot of innings. And they got Moss and Wilson in the bullpen have been pitching pretty well lately, and other guys. Guys, the only thing that stopped Texas A&M, the hot streak, was Texas, which seems to be stopping everything. This team has been a buzzsaw against everybody else lately. A&M is desperate for a win. I'm going to go back to A&M to win. I think this will be a fantastic series. Jay picks LSU, so I'm alone in this one, guys. So cannot wait to see this one and how it turns out. A&M, I think, really needs a couple wins here. I'm not saying it can't get in the tournament if it doesn't get them, but you'd like to get 2 here at home with the calendar winding down. Okay, Kentucky at Mississippi State. As you know, Chris Lemonis, the coach, fired for the Bulldogs. In his place, Justin Parker. State will be at home, where it is 17-7. Kentucky is 10-7 on the road. Of course, did beat Tennessee in Knoxville a couple of weekends ago. All these games are on the app, except for Sundays, which will be noon on the SEC Network. Friday at 6 Central, I would expect to see righty Nate Harris against lefty Pico Cone. Saturday at 2 Central, I think it'll be lefty Nick McKay for Kentucky against righty Evan Sierre for the Bulldogs. And then Sunday's pitching matchup, lefty Ben Cleaver, who is Kentucky's best starter, against Carson Ligon, who's been better of late. Alfred, start us off with injuries, any notes, and your picks on this one.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is we know Kentucky is get down and dirty, small ball, bunt, steal, all that good stuff, right? And Mississippi State is not really a good fielding team amongst SEC teams when you break it down. That is not a good matchup for them. You have all this Chris Lemonis news, in the back of their minds, although I will give Mississippi State credit. They had a very good, kind of emotionally charged midweek win over Memphis after that happened with Justin Parker, which was awesome for them. They put up a ton of runs that game, so that's great. However, this isn't Memphis, right? This is the Kentucky Wildcats, so it's a little bit different. And if we're doing midweeks, Kentucky had a slip up against Western Kentucky in the midweek. But before that, guys, series win over South Carolina, series win over Tennessee. I very big kind of statement win that sticks out to me against the Louisville Cardinals. Kentucky's continuing up and up and up after kind of floating just below the water surface this whole time. And I kind of, even though they have to go to Starkville, I still really like them in this matchup. I don't think it works out well for Mississippi State at all. And Kentucky has a winning record on the road anyway. Give me the Wildcats in a series win here. Maybe Mississippi State is getting a new look at their new coach. Just kidding. I don't think so. But I thought I'd throw that in there. I thought I'd throw that in there just for fun. Don't be angry, Kentucky fans. Kentucky wins the series 2 out of 3.
Yeah. To that point, Alfred, Mingione is on their list. I didn't realize until a couple of days ago his buyout for college baseball is $6 million.
Yeah,
he is not going to be the head coach at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Even though he's got the ties there, he told us right here on this show he met his wife there. More than likely, probably not going to happen. So for Mississippi State, they're going to have a monster crowd there. It's Super Bulldog weekend. I kind of think they were going to have a big crowd anyway, but they're going to like make a statement. You see what I'm saying? Like they want to show everybody like, hey, look at us. Even though we fired a coach in the middle of the season, like look at what we can do. So they got baseball at home, softball's at home, and they got the dachshund race this weekend in Starkville in the Cotton District. So having said all that, I'm taking Kentucky just because of what Alfred said. Everything that Kentucky does well, Mississippi State struggles in that area. Kentucky's going to manufacture runs. They are leading the conference in sack bunts, sack flies. They're towards the top in stolen bases, like all these areas. And Mississippi State hasn't really played anybody like that yet. You know, like State hasn't played Vandy and Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the only team that State has kind of played like this style. So I kind of think Mingione, like, you know, he hears all this stuff. I kind of think he wants to put a statement as well. Like I know I'm on the list, but like I'm at Kentucky, you know, kind of one of those things. And I just think Kentucky, they're playing well right now. I just kind of think they know who they are. And when you have your identity, that is a big bonus. So I think Kentucky will handle business, taking 2 out of 3. And this will be their first time above 500 in SEC play. So it'll be a big weekend for the Wildcats.
Yeah, I keep thinking State's due to play better, and I was going to pick them, and then I listened to Alfred talk about all the bunting and running, and we know about the defense, and I literally thought, you know, that is a terrible matchup. There's a lot of pressure on State too. Nothing would surprise me in this one, but give me Kentucky. It has shown it can handle the road. State just hasn't put anything together for any considerable period of time. I think I'm in a prove it to me before I believe it situation. So that'll make it a clean sweep for the Wildcats. All right, this one, I don't think we're going to have much dissension on it. Georgia, Missouri. Georgia 8-6, or excuse me, 6-8 on the road. Missouri 8-13 at home. All these games on the app. Friday 6 Central, Saturday 7 Central, Sunday 1 Central. Here are what I guess the pitching matchups will probably be. Brian Curley, righty for Georgia against lefty Brady Kellenbrink. On Saturday, Colton Smith, a righty for Georgia against righty Caden Jacoby. And then I would think that Georgia would go Leighton Finley, who's been good a couple of weekends in a row, on Sunday against probably TBD for Missouri. Missouri looks like it's headed to 0-30, guys. I don't know what else to say here. And Georgia can hit a little bit, and boy, Missouri's been run ruled 10 times.
Yeah.
In league play only.
One bad matchup to another bad matchup. Missouri pitching versus Georgia hitting. This is not going to be pretty. I would be shocked if any of these games are close, and that's really the only way I'd be surprised. Won't spend a lot of time here. Georgia sweep hitting is just way too good. Missouri pitching is just way too not good. Really quickly on Missouri though, not to talk about them too much. Shout out to their athletic director being like, hey, we haven't invested as much in baseball as we should. Hinting at maybe looking into that. I think that was a good kind of answer to a question that was asked about it. So that's one thing from Missouri I'll add, unrelated to this series because it's just not going to be close. But something I wanted to throw in there. Georgia sweep this weekend in Columbia.
Yeah, obviously I'm taking Georgia, but just to kind of piggyback off what Alfred said. So I don't know why the athletic director had a press conference yesterday, but he was asked some about baseball. So he did say that starting next season, Mizzou is going to go to an all artificial surface playing field. And like one thing to notice, there have been, I guess, kind of whispers about Carrick Jackson and his status. So Mizzou's AD left Memphis to go to Mizzou. Who hired Carrick Jackson in Memphis? Their current AD in
Same
Mizzou.
guy.
So they have a relationship. So I kind of think after the season they'll sit down, have a meeting, and like start to address this. Not saying they're going to fix and solve all the problems, but I do think moving forward, you're not going to see 0-30 a realistic thing on the table for Mizzou baseball moving forward.
Was that a press conference that they had, or was that something along the lines of a fan caravan or something like that?
I don't know. I would have to dive into it. It's probably what you said, but
yeah.
that news was coming out yesterday, and I was just thinking like, this isn't why have a press conference about baseball?
Very, very good answer though. Like I think a lot of people would not say what he said. Like I think a lot of people would not admit that, which is good.
Yeah, I think a change would be a little expensive, relatively speaking, for a school that doesn't spend much on baseball. I read that answer as we're not firing our coach.
Right. Yeah.
Is how I saw it. But here's the one thing that could be interesting, guys. Georgia's sitting here in the conference at 12-9, RPI of 2, firmly in position to get, not just a host, but a national seed. Ends the season at Foley Field against a red-hot A&M team, goes to Alabama next weekend, it goes to Missouri. Guys, if this is the weekend that Missouri pulls one out of a hat, I'm going to say something else, but I won't. But I was trying to be nice. That could be a little bit of a resume, not a killer, but that could really put a dent in things. So Georgia needs to be sure it comes out of Columbia with 3 here, and I think it will.
Real quick, I think if Mizzou's going to do it, kind of circle one for the Mississippi State series. Like if State's out of the picture, they don't have a head coach. Like if Mizzou's going to win one, that's kind of where I would look towards.
Yeah, that could be if Mississippi State has fallen out of the chance to get an at large, that could be a nobody wants to be here. Who wants to win this one today situation. So we'll see. Let's go to Florida, visiting South Carolina. Florida 6-7 on the road. South Carolina 21-7 at home. Ethan Petrie is done for the year. Alfred, I think you told me yesterday. And Nathan Hall, I think, is out too, we think. Is that correct?
He's good. I've heard.
Okay, he's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here are the game times. Friday, 6 Central. Saturday, 3 Central. Sunday, 12:30 Central. All those games on the app. Here are what we think the pitching matchups will be. Florida with Liam Peterson against Brandon Stone. And again, this is what we think. Righty Aiden King against lefty Jake McCoy. And then probably TBD could be Alex Philpott for Florida against Dylan Eskew for South Carolina. Alfred, start us off here.
Florida, not pretty on the road this year, 6-7 overall. However, it is, safe to say that they have been playing way better as of late. You go back, I think really you go back to the Florida State game in Gainesville on April 8th. They won that one, swept Missouri, beat a tough Stetson team in a midweek. You guys know I love my Hatters. Beat Mississippi State in a series, beat Georgia Southern in a midweek, and then won the series against Arkansas. So Florida is playing very well. And I think is on a trajectory, if all goes like it has, to getting into the NCAA tournament again, which is trouble for the field, if you guys remember last year. I don't see that not happening this weekend. South Carolina, we kind of hinted at it being a nail in the coffin, right, to their season, the series loss against Kentucky. This is just they just get a bad draw here, although they're at home at Founders Park with Florida coming in and playing as well as they are. I think the Gators do get a series win here, 2 out of 3. A sweep would not surprise me though, based on kind of the vibes around South Carolina this year. It's beyond growing pains with Paul Maneri's first year at this point. It's kind of bleh, you know what I mean? What's been going on in Columbia. I like how Florida's been playing. They did well. They scored a lot of runs on the road at Mississippi State at a tough place to play in Duty Noble Field, albeit coaching whatever's going on with that team, but tough place to play, just like Founders Park can be. So yeah, give me the Gators 2 out of 3. A sweep would not surprise me.
Yeah, copy paste what Alfred said. So mainly just because of everything going on in South Carolina. Coach Maneri's been speaking with the media. Let's just say it's made a lot of headlines. And then also the big one, of course, Ethan Petrie out for 3 weeks, which is, the rest of the regular season. And then I'm just reading right now about Nathan Hall. So it's a heel injury for Nathan Hall. Didn't really go at Kentucky because they got the artificial surface, and Coach Maneri was saying, that they just kind of played it safe. He hasn't practiced this week very much. It kind of seems like it's a pain tolerance thing for Nathan Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So it just either one way or the other, he's not quite 100%. So I'm taking Florida. I don't care where they're playing this series. I'm taking the Gators 2 out of 3. I just kind of think it's the snowball effect and not a good way for South Carolina at this point in the season.
Yeah. Who has the better lineup? Florida. Who has the better pitching? Florida.
Yes.
Who has more to play for? Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got their best player out? South Carolina. Who feels like could be playing out the string on the season? We'll see. But Carolina's reached the point where there's not much to play for, other than maybe an unexpected run in Hoover, which feels impossible given the field of teams it would have to get through. Give me Florida in this one. I don't know if it'll be a sweep either, but I like the Gators with some confidence here. All right, last one, Ole Miss at Oklahoma. The Rebels 7-4 on the road. Oklahoma 17-7 at home. All games on the ESPN app. Times Central here, Friday 6:30, Saturday 4, Sunday at 2. The pitching matchups we expect, because these teams, Ole Miss has gone the same arms, I think, every weekend, Graham, all year.
Correct.
And this is what Oklahoma's done lately. Kyson Witherspoon on Friday. Well, it's done that all season. Cade Crossland's been the Saturday guy. Malachi Witherspoon's been the Sunday guy. And Ole Miss has gone Hunter Elliott, Riley Maddox, Mason Nichols all year long in that order. Crossland, the only lefty in that bunch. Alfred, start us off with a look at Ole Miss and Oklahoma.
I feel like this is the constant theme with Oklahoma. Kyson Witherspoon is the kicker to really a lot of what they do on weekends in a huge way, right? How much he is an automatic win affects how Oklahoma plays. Oklahoma is without Dayton Taki, of course, who's out until postseason-ish play, something like that, due to an injury he suffered in Athens. He is one of the better hitters in that lineup, so that's kind of a blow Skip Johnson couldn't afford. Good news for the Sooners, you're back at home at Dale Mitchell Park, which will be good for you, which will be good for that team. I think Ole Miss is playing really, really well and kind of feeling themselves, though, right? They had the midweek win over Mississippi State. And then a big series win over Vanderbilt against a really good pitching staff. So, that's objectively speaking, I kind of like Vandy's pitching staff over Oklahoma's, and Ole Miss got to that one. Oklahoma really needs that Kyson Witherspoon game. I think that's going to be huge because if you get that one, then it's like, okay, we can mess around a little, and we have one or two we can win that can win us the series. If Ole Miss gets that one, I think it's kind of lights out for Oklahoma in this series. So that being said, I think Ole Miss is playing too well right now based off momentum to lose this series. I do think they take a loss. I think Oklahoma does get a game here, though. Give me the Rebels 2 out of 3. I like how the lineup is playing a little bit more. I think Oklahoma got rattled a little bit after the Friday night or the Thursday night win in Georgia to go on and lose that series. This will be close. I actually think some of these games will be closer than people think. but I do like Ole Miss just to, be able to have the advantage because of how they're playing momentum wise. Rebels 2 out of 3 for me.
So to kind of give you this is the first time Ole Miss has played in Norman ever. The last time these two teams played, it was for all the marbles in 2022. Yeah. So Mike Bianco and Skip Johnson will meet again. I think it's a benefit for Ole Miss that you're playing two teams that play similar back to back in Vanderbilt and now Oklahoma. I think it helps that this series is in Norman. The crowd's there. There's not going to be like 8,000 people there by any means. I just kind of think the Ole Miss offense will be too much for this one. We know how awesome Kyson Witherspoon is. I don't think Ole Miss will light him up by any means because hardly anybody has. But I just kind of trust the Ole Miss offense, again, built around walks, most walks in the conference, top 10 in the country in home runs, just kind of what Ole Miss has done all season. So the pitching, especially Saturday, Riley Maddox has been really, really good his last 3 outings. He attributes a lot of that to new pitching coach Joel Mangrum, mainly his mentality. So I'm picking Ole Miss here, even though this is a big series for both teams. Like, again, both teams are trying to get in the host spot. And if you win this one, maybe you'll get a national seed depending on how things shake out down the stretch. Oklahoma still has Texas to go. So I'm picking Ole Miss 2 out of 3. Yeah, can I see every game being close? Yeah, for sure, especially when you're playing on the road for Ole Miss. So give me the Rebels 2 out of 3. I just kind of think the offense will be a little bit too much for the Sooners this weekend.
Yeah, looking at Oklahoma at home in the conference, it dropped that series to LSU where it was 30 degrees and huge winds. It beat Mississippi State to open conference play, and it took 2 out of 3 against Vandy pretty decisively. The last one got away from the Sooners. As for Ole Miss on the road so far in the SEC, it has, let's see, it swept Missouri there. It took 2 or 3 from Kentucky. It lost 2 or 3 at South Carolina. So that's the score so far. I like Malachi Witherspoon against Hunter Elliott. Elliott's tough to hit, but I think Kyson. Yeah, big difference in the results so far. So I like that one. The question is, how do you go the other two? I'll probably go Ole Miss in game 2 and maybe Oklahoma in game 3. It's kind of dumb to pitch an individual series, but I'm trying to think this one through in my head. It's close. I'm just going to go Oklahoma mostly by virtue of playing at home. So that's what we'll do here. And so I think I've gone against the group on A&M at Oklahoma. And I think other than that, we were pretty consistent, guys.
I think so too.
Maybe one other series we didn't see eye to eye on, but
you got it, which is not good for
me.
Texas, Tennessee, Vandy, Kentucky, and Florida.
Yeah.
If you lose, you can blame us.
It has been a very interesting weekend in the league. I mean, like, other than playing Missouri and playing Texas, everything else feels like it's been mostly up in the air.
Yeah, very much so. Expect similar results here. Maybe Georgia has some trouble because we all picked them. Probably not.
Could you imagine?
Probably not. All right. That's it for our coverage. Be sure to follow our social media accounts. Be sure to, if you follow our podcasts in audio form, give those a review and a 5-star rating if you don't mind, to help us pick up our audiences there. We will be here to do live recaps of the games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, either when those are all done or when they're winding down. Watch our Twitter feed. We'll maybe try to leave you some clues to when those are coming. But anyway, for Alfred Esmond, Graham Doty, and in absentia, Jay Greason, I'm Chris Lee at Southeastern 16. God bless you. Have a great weekend of baseball watching, and we'll see you again soon.